Hello, my name's Tom Staunton, and this is the second of two videos around the idea of a careers MOOC. Let me quickly review the first video. We looked at the idea of what a MOOC was. We looked at it as being a massive, open, online course. And we looked at two videos, one from a company called Coursera, who puts on what I call a structureless MOOC, a MOOC with an instructor, where people learn content in a fairly individualistic manner and then have it assessed. And then more of a connectivist MOOC, a MOOC which is more a group of people around a topic where everybody produces content, where people reflect on each other's content, and it's a lot more free form. I mean, it was a video by a guy called Dave Cormier that showcased this. And I looked at 4 reasons why I think careers work might lend itself to a MOOC at the moment. The ideas of employability, careers work being more around teaching a set of skills. The idea of social media being a big issue around careers work at the moment. The idea of customized learning, people wanting different things out of the educational process. And the idea of distance learning, people not being located at a university physically. And these are 4 things which I think makes a careers MOOC an interesting idea at the moment. And then we got as far as asking why, and this is where I want to take things up today for this second video. Why do a careers MOOC? And I have 6 main reasons. Firstly, distance learning. At my institution, I find it very difficult to actually engage with the many distance learners that my institution houses. They can't come to one-to-one appointments, they can't come to workshops I put on, they can't come to the physical things that I do in the faculties I work with. I can engage with them over email, but it's quite limited. A MOOC would allow distance learners to directly engage with employability and careers work very much in the same way that their located peers would do. It allows you to deliver content and have them involved in careers work in a lot more direct manner. Secondly, sharing. I'm really big on this. I think that students let themselves down because they don't really know what each other is doing around their careers. They don't really learn from each other about career. Definitely not in a sort of a structured way. They don't explore ideas of career together the way that they could be doing, or at least I think many of them don't. But a MOOC allows a very structured way of students to learn from each other, to be almost peer mentors to each other around their careers. Thirdly, active experimentation. Students need to be taking action around their careers. They need to be reflecting, they need to be coming up with their own ideas and opinions. I think often, definitely the students that I work with, they struggle with sort of taking ownership and really developing themselves and their futures. A MOOC forces them to do that, particularly a connectivist MOOC where you're developing content yourself. It forces you to have an opinion and to share that opinion, to actually reflect on something. You are successful in a MOOC because you're very much a participant, you're very involved in it. You're not just sitting in the back of the lecture listening to stuff being thrown at you. So I think active experimentation, which is something that's really needed to be successful in your careers, is really embedded into how a MOOC works. Fourthly, the idea of identity. Identity is obviously really important for somebody in their career, asking who they are. I think things like blogs, social media, really allows you to play around with the idea of identity, to project an idea of who you are, to get feedback on how other people see you, to reflect on how you're forming an identity. I think as a space, the internet really allows you to create identity and really allows you to reflect on it, which I think could be very powerful for careers work. Fifthly, informal. So by informal, I mean learning that doesn't necessarily happen in a very structured environment, which particularly from what we looked at last time for a connectivist MOOC, the two are very closely linked. And I think this sort of crosses over into careers work very nicely, that your career to a certain extent is your life, and learning about a career is a form of informal learning. It's not structured, it's continual over a period of time, it's not rooted around a set outcome, and so I think the two sit very nicely side by side, that the skills particularly you need to be successful in terms of informal learning, being active, building relationships, extracting personal meaning from situations, are things that happen in a MOOC very easily and very readily. Sixthly then, a teacher's position, and this is almost the point that I'm most excited about. Traditionally, when I deliver content to students, when I run a course, when I run a workshop for them, I deliver content, they listen. In a MOOC, again, particularly in the Connectivist MOOC, which I guess you might be picking up by now, is my preference for how a MOOC should be run. They reflect on a set of ideas, they produce content. As a teacher, I'm very much come in as a coach, as a developer, as a collator of information, making sure that the community is working well, that information is moving well around the MOOC. And so I am looking at what students are producing rather than spending all my time just giving them content and hoping something's happening. So I'm working with students around their thoughts about their careers, and I think that's a lot more exciting place to be looking at what they're producing rather than to be the one just giving content and hoping something's happening in their heads. So those are my 6 reasons for being excited about the idea of a MOOC. But I think there are some drawbacks, and there are 4 big drawbacks I'm going to discuss briefly. So firstly, digital literacy. For a student who's not familiar with the internet, maybe who's concerned about social media, concerned about their digital footprint, a MOOC might be a scary environment they can't really engage in, an environment that they can't feel that they can flourish in. I think on the flip side, maybe a MOOC is a really exciting place to learn these skills in a first-hand sort of a way to see their actual application to your life, but definitely for students who struggle with digital literacy, that a MOOC can be a difficult and intimidating place to be. Secondly, it's an unfamiliar form of learning, particularly the more sort of loose connectivist MOOC. Students almost certainly aren't used to it, almost certainly haven't done it before. Giving them something very unfamiliar may put some people off. Thirdly, self-reliance. For an online course, at the very least, you need to be logging onto a web page fairly regularly and reading content or watching videos. You're not tied to coming to a certain place at a certain time. You need to find the time yourself, and you need to be doing something in your own time. You need to be engaging in material, thinking about material, reflecting on material. You need to be self-reliant. And for a student who isn't used to that, who is more used to a sort of a spoon-feeding approach to education, they may find this difficult to engage in. Fourthly then, that it's impersonal, at least it can have the appearance of being impersonal. You're not meeting anybody in a face-to-face way. This can be disorientating. Some students may sort of struggle in that sort of environment without a lecturer that they're personally getting to know and a group of students that they're personally getting to know. So those are 4 drawbacks that I've discussed. As you may have guessed, I'm really interested in this form of delivering careers work, and I would really like to hear from other people about what their thoughts are. Any reflections, any questions, any sort of further developments on what I've said, please do get in contact. I have a blog, Running in the Forest, which is hosted on WordPress. You can find me on Twitter at TomStorms84, and you can just email me at my personal Hotmail address. I would love to hear from people. I would love to hear other academics and careers workers' feedback on these topics. Thank you.